The words had barely left his mouth when the entire room seemed to stop breathing. "I can't do this," the groom said, his voice sharp, unapologetic, carrying through the vaulted church like a blade slicing silk. His hand released hers, and he stepped back from the altar, leaving her alone in white before hundreds of watching eyes. Gasps erupted, a chorus of disbelief. The priest froze mid-sentence. The bridesmaids turned pale, their bouquets trembling. And she, Anna, a woman whose quiet dignity carried scars deeper than anyone in that room could see, stood motionless, her chest rising once, slowly, as if drawing breath from somewhere buried in bone and memory. She did not chase him. She did not beg. She did not collapse. Her silence was louder than his cruelty. But within moments, as he strutted away in arrogance, as whispers rippled like wildfire among the pews, a deeper tremor stirred outside. Tires rumbled against stone, engines in disciplined unison. A wall of black SUVs pulled up along the church steps, their doors opening in precise choreography, and then boots hit the ground. One, then dozens, then hundreds. By the time the last man entered, over 1,000 Navy SEALs, brothers in arms clad in dress blues and steel-eyed resolve, stood surrounding the church. The guests fell silent, sensing something larger, something unseen until now, had entered the story. Anna lowered her gaze, and for the first time, a tear slipped free, not from shame, but from knowing she was not alone. Anna had always carried herself with quiet strength, though life had carved that strength from suffering. Years earlier, she had served as a Navy nurse in Kandahar. Dust storms and smoke had been her companions, her hands steady as she stitched torn flesh beneath makeshift tents, her ears ringing with the cries of men who would never again walk, see, or hold their children. She had held the dying, whispered promises to brothers who asked her to tell their wives they had fought bravely. She had written letters stained by tears and blood. And one night, as mortars thundered like angry gods, the blast that threw her across the sand nearly ended her life. Shrapnel scarred her shoulder. Her hearing never fully recovered in one ear. For months, she could not raise her arm without pain. But she refused to stop tending others, even when her own wounds screamed for rest. War ended for some when they returned home. For Anna, it followed in memory's gunpowder that lingered in her dreams, the metallic taste of blood that never fully faded. And yet, she carried herself with grace, never asking for applause, never demanding recognition. That was the woman left standing at the altar, abandoned in her white gown by a man too shallow to see the treasure of her silence. The cost of her strength. The groom's footsteps echoed down the aisle as he left her. His smirk betrayed no regret, only contempt. Some whispered that he had always envied her strength, that her quiet resilience made his own weaknesses unbearable. And still, no one in the pews moved. Not a bridesmaid, not a family member. Eyes darted away, afraid to intervene, afraid to confront. The cowardice of silence weighed heavily, an injustice sharper than his betrayal. She stood alone at the altar, her bouquet trembling only slightly in her grasp. The priest's hands fumbled with his book. He said nothing. The band shifted awkwardly. It was as if the whole room agreed to let humiliation fall on her shoulders alone. But fate had other plans. Anna lowered her head and inhaled slowly. The lace of her gown scratched softly against her skin, the scent of lilies from the altar thick in the air. She did not speak, she did not plead. She simply stood as she always had, in silent endurance. That silence became unbearable for the guests. Her lack of collapse unsettled them, as if her strength exposed their weakness. Some shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered excuses for the groom. But Anna's stillness became its own kind of protest, its own judgment. What none of them saw yet was the chain reaction her pain had already set in motion. For weeks, quietly, without her knowing, her former comrades had watched from the shadows. Men she had nursed back to life, men who owed her breath, had sworn she would never again stand alone. And now, as the groom's arrogance filled the church, they made their entrance. The heavy wooden doors at the back of the church burst open. Rows of men in immaculate uniforms marched in, boots pounding in unison like a heartbeat of justice. Behind them, lining the walls, stood hundreds more, forming a shield of silence. Outside, the black SUVs blocked the streets, a silent fortress of steel and loyalty. Gasps spread through the pews. Children clutched their parents. Even the priest staggered backward at the sight. The groom stopped mid-step, his smirk faltering as the reality dawned. These were not strangers. They were SEAL's elite, unshakable, lethal men. And every single one of them was here for her. They did not shout. They did not threaten. They simply stood in silent formation, their presence declaring what words never could. This woman is sacred. This woman is ours to honor. One man stepped forward, his chest heavy with ribbons, his face weathered with years of battle. He carried no weapon, only the weight of truth. "Anna," he said softly, his voice carrying to every corner of the church. "You have given more than most could ever bear. And though one man abandoned you today, 1,000 stand ready to carry you forward." The guests rose to their feet, not by command, but by instinct. The weight of honor demanded it. The old SEAL turned, his eyes locking on the groom, who stood frozen at the edge of the aisle. His lips curled in disdain, but his shoulders betrayed fear. "Cowards run," the SEAL said, his voice low but unshakable. "But heroes stand. Today, the world sees who is who." Another voice rose from the ranks, deep and steady. "She stitched us back together when war tore us apart. Today, we stitch her dignity where you tried to tear it away." And then Anna herself spoke finally, after standing silent through betrayal and humiliation. Her voice was soft, but it carried with the weight of mountains. "You may have walked away from me, but I was never alone. I never will be." The groom paled. He stumbled backward, muttering excuses, but the SEALs did not move. Their silence was more damning than any curse. In one unified motion, the 1,000 men saluted her. The air trembled with the sound of hands striking brows, a wave of respect so thunderous it made the stained glass windows quiver. The crowd of guests, ashamed, rose in unison. Even the priest, trembling, bowed his head. Anna's tear-streaked face lifted, her spine straight as steel beneath her gown. For the first time in years, she did not feel the ache of loneliness. She felt carried by the weight of love she had earned through sacrifice, not romance. The groom turned and fled, his footsteps frantic against marble, his figure shrinking until he vanished into the daylight. No one followed him. No one cared. All eyes remained on her. The SEAL commander extended his arm, not to take her away, but to steady her. "Walk forward, Anna," he said. "Not because you were abandoned, but because you were chosen." And so she stepped down from the altar, 1,000 men parting in reverent silence to let her pass. That day, Anna did not marry. But she gained something far greater, an army's devotion, a nation's reminder of what true respect looks like. The world often forgets the silent heroes, the nurses who patch wounds no one sees, the veterans who fight their battles long after war ends. But Anna's story pierced through that silence. Her dignity taught a lesson that echoed far beyond those church walls. Honor is not found in the promises men make. It is found in the sacrifices we carry and the respect we give. To everyone watching, this story is more than one bride's heartbreak. It is a reminder to stand for those who have stood for us, to speak when silence feels easier, to honor those who bear scars in silence. Wherever you are watching from, share your thoughts in the comments below. What does silent strength mean to you? And if you believe in honoring the quiet heroes among us, subscribe for more stories that must never be forgotten. Because sometimes, the most powerful vows are not spoken at the altar. They are lived in silence for a lifetime.